It's a late night in the town of Bladgar. After a hard day's work, you are finally getting the rest and sleep that you deserve in your comfortable bed. Unfortunately, your sleep is interrupted by the sound of a loud crash and a man screaming out in pain near the market square. Your home is nearby, so you investigate the noise. When you arrive, you see a large caravan has been overturned, with the man being ripped from the cabin and mutilated, his body pinned up against the side of the wagon, with 3 large claw marks scratching across his chest. What could have made those claw marks? What could have been possibly strong enough to push the caravan over? These are some of the last thoughts that you have as you turn around and see a large, hulking mass of grey fur lunge out of you, ending your life. Welcome back to Sebastian's Cauldron. I am Sebastian, and I was talking to a friend yesterday, a couple of days ago, and he reminded me, he's one of my players in my current campaign, and I was trying to, at one point, get him to DM his own game. I mean, I'm trying to do this with all of my players with varying degrees of success, but we ended up collaboratively writing a sort of sample session so you could see my process and how I go about writing or prepping adventures, and he reminded me and said, hey, this would be good for you to maybe finish up and polish and hand over to the people that are watching your videos and see if they do anything with it. So that is what we are doing today. We are looking at this adventure, I guess you could call it, that I have written, entitled The Night Ranger. Now, this adventure, I've actually printed it off right here, is only about 6 pages long of Word doc notes. It's not particularly extensive. There is a lot of room for the DM to add or remove things they see fit, but I think it's a nice start to a campaign potentially, or just even as a one-shot or something to do over a couple of sessions if maybe you're not looking of doing the classic fantasy adventure that the starter set gives you. This is sort of more horror themed, and I guess considering it's, a few days, it's a week or so until Halloween, it seems thematically appropriate to be thinking about horror. This adventure, if you couldn't tell from my opening tirade, has a werewolf in it, which is particularly scary when it comes to D&D, considering one of their big things is they have immunity to non-magical piercing, bludgeoning, and slashing damage, which means if you don't have a magic weapon or a non-magical weapon that's made by silver, you are not going to be doing particularly much to the werewolf. If you don't have some spellcasters with you, it is going to be a tricky time. So I thought it was a great fit, and when we were writing this, I was sort of inspired by my first session for this current campaign, The Ascension of Ajax, which features a town being attacked by a werewolf. So a lot of this is sort of similar, and my process of fleshing it out is sort of thinking about a couple of different places that I've taken inspiration from, this session being one of them, and another one being the first book of the Dark Tower. I actually have it right here with me. I'm planning on rereading this soon after thinking about it and getting this session ready, but there's quite a few things in here. It's got pretty much everything you could possibly need as a beginner DM. We have a starting town, the town of Bladgar. We have some key locations. Of course, there's a mayor's office, there's the sheriff's office, there is a blacksmith, there is a tavern. I think I gave the tavern like a suitably cliched name, the Greasy Ox. Yes, I think a lot of fantasy tavern names is sort of just adjective animal, which is a fantastic life hack as well. So that's something, if you ever need to come up with the name of a tavern in the pitch, adjective animal. Easy. Blue dragon. The green chicken. Green chicken sounds kind of nice, actually. It's like green eggs and ham. Maybe that's where the green eggs came from. What else do we have? We have the sheriff, Sheriff Martin, who was once an adventurer and has decided to settle down and try and have a normal life protecting a small town, which he is doing as the Night Ranger. He was formerly a ranger after all. He did have a wolf companion, so the sort of him being attributed to these werewolf killings isn't necessarily far-fetched, but of course he is a sheriff, he's not necessarily evil, and most of the townsfolk have no idea, I would say almost none of the townsfolk have any idea that their beloved sheriff is in fact the Night Ranger. We've got a town being attacked by a werewolf, which is being protected by this mysterious ranger who the townspeople think is doing the actual killings themselves. So no one seems to know that this werewolf is doing anything bad. They'll probably figure out eventually, but no thanks to a certain human priestess named Silva, who is sort of sowing the seeds of discord and chaos. She has taken up the mantle of presuming that the Night Ranger is the person doing these killings. For what reason? That's up to you. Maybe they have some dark deal with some other nefarious entity to allow the werewolf to do its killing. Maybe they know the werewolf personally. Maybe Silva is the werewolf themselves. Who knows? It could be anything. This is free for you to change and do what you see fit. But I like the idea that she is simply just a devoutly religious person who believes the Night Ranger is an interloper and is going to bring about the end times, and that these killings are somehow connected in some way, and if only she could figure out how they're connected, she'll be able to stop them and save the world. Silva herself, the idea for her, this priestess who is sowing the seeds of discord, I have taken straight from The Gunslinger. Our titular character, Roland Deschain, goes to the town of Tull, where she is met by Sylvia Patterson, who is a preacher and believes that Roland is the interloper, and unfortunately she manages to convince the rest of the townspeople that Roland is the evil one and not the man in black who the gunslinger is following across the desert. And so Roland is forced to, because he has to keep himself alive, he is forced to kill the 58-person population of the town in a quite brutal manner. So I thought, why not throw that onto the players? I think that'll be kind of fun. They'll have to face the moral quandary of, do we help the Night Ranger or do we slaughter the town? And we probably would have to do both, because it seems the townspeople are not going to help the Night Ranger, and perhaps the townspeople, when they find out that Sheriff Martin is in fact the Night Ranger, perhaps they will not continue to like him as they are currently doing. Perhaps they will feel that they need to take care of him in some way and attack. Of course, that doesn't have to happen. The players could decide to kill the Night Ranger themselves for whatever reason. Don't presume you know what your players will do, because you will have a really bad time. Always plan for as much as you can, or at least be open to throwing the plans out the window and going with whatever it is that the players want. So maybe they want to join sides with the werewolf. If that's something you think is possible, if the werewolf wants to have evil companions, so be it. You could kill the Night Ranger and maybe use the town as a base for a evil cult to do something. Who knows? It's totally up for you to use. Personally, I think D&D, it's a heroic game. It should be about people doing good deeds, or at least vaguely good things. So I like the idea of, hunting down this werewolf and helping the Night Ranger. That being said, with what I have written sort of towards the end, presuming that the Night Ranger is helped, the party is going to have to go up against the entire town. So how do you run an entire town attacking the players and the Night Ranger? Do you get out 100 little miniatures and put them on the board, and you have to keep track of 100 separate initiative counts and try and remember that, oh, this guy has this bonus, or but these guys, no, you're not going to do that. What we're going to do instead is we are going to take some more beefier single bad guys and reflavor them as swarms, as large mobs of people. I have taken the liberty of including some stat blocks. My printer is nearly out of ink, so you can't exactly see them all, but I've included some stat blocks and some notes on how to reflavor them. So we have 3 distinct swarms of townspeople. We have the Berserker, a group of the sort of large, brutish people who are going to get up close in melee and really hit hard. They have a reckless ability where they can gain advantage on attacks while also gaining advantage on attacks against them, which you can sort of think of as them swarming an enemy and throwing bodies at them, making it almost impossible to miss the player, but also impossible to miss the swarm. We have the Bandit Captain Swarm, which is going to have slightly more training. Perhaps these were town guards or constables or something. They have some form of experience, and so they have 2 attacks with the scimitar, and they also have a parry ability, meaning that there is going to be this massive swords sort of clanging around and potentially causing attacks to maybe miss. And finally, we have the Knight mob. Now, this mob is the most devout mob, devout to Silva, our priestess. They are going to have this leadership ability, which I have sort of decided is Silva has granted a low amount of magic, sort of like a smaller version of the spell Bless, in which they can add a d4 to their attack rolls or to their ability checks, which can be very helpful. Silva is going to be a mage, obviously, a spellcaster. I was going to use the priest stat block, but it doesn't have anything suitably evil, and this was an issue I had in the second session of Ascension when they were going up against another evil priest. So we are going to give her the mage stat block. We're going to lower down some of her numbers. I've put all of those in the document, of course. Remove a couple of spells. She does have access to Fireball. I probably wouldn't use that against the players unless you're feeling particularly mean, or if they somehow seem to be rather beefy and be able to survive it, but it's not a great thing to do, I think, fireballing your entire party and killing them with 1 spell. That being said, you could totally do it if you want to. It could be dramatic. Perhaps it's a setup for the next adventure where they're in hell and they have to try and fight their way out of something. Maybe you've been playing lots of Doom. Who knows? That's the adventure. I've gotten a couple of sample encounters, things that you can put in there, but really, it's up to you. You can add or remove things that you see fit. You can stretch it out to be a couple of sessions long. You could make it super short and only last a couple of hours. But this is part of sort of learning to DM, is learning to both improvise like encounters and story hooks, and also come up with your own. Writing adventures, writing encounters and stuff is really fun to do. Modules, of course, are fantastic to use, and we're going to do another video at some point soon talking about how to use modules, because it's not the way that you're going to be thinking. But I think writing your own encounters and writing your own stories, or at least storylines, can be really great. It means you're going to know it super well because it's all coming from up here, but it also means that you're able to do it sort of off the cuff if the players decide to go and do something random. I would say for this sort of adventure, probably first level would be a bit mean, maybe second or third level. You could have them start at first level and maybe level up after they discover that the Night Ranger is Martin, or you could do any sort of milestone XP. That's what I've been using. I've never really used the stat block XP sort of leveling up way, just because a lot of my homebrew monsters, I haven't taken the time to use the CR system and figure out what's going on there. I much prefer the milestone. It means you can sort of level people up when you see fit. You can, of course, do whatever you want with this adventure. You can change it from a werewolf to a vampire, maybe a slard, one of these weird frog beings. Look at that. Isn't that just... Ugh. I would not want to fight one of those things. I mean, I wouldn't want to fight anything, really. It'd be kind of scary. But besides the point, you can change, add things as you see fit. If you do run this adventure, please let me know. Drop a comment down below. Let me know how it went, what you changed, what you added. You guys can do all the usual YouTube stuff. I won't say it this time, but I will see you guys some other time.